Hello, everyone. Welcome into what we're calling the Take 3 show presented by IU Sports Media. I'm Jordan Gould. Anna Tiplick's helping me out with the production of this. Special thanks to her. And today, our first guest of this inaugural episode, we have Jackson Kinney, or JJJ Jackson Boone, I believe. Is that what
you got it right? You got the amount of J's right.
Is that what the gamers call you these days? Yeah.
Yes.
How are you, Jackson? What's up, man?
Doing all right. Just hanging out, doing homework. I've got a paper to write after we do this. So.
Oh, well, thank you for your dedication. What is that pattern of that? Is that like a Patagonia pullover you got going on? What's going on there?
100% Patagonia, dude. I have no idea where the logo is. I'm bad at this. Yeah, there was. Yeah.
That design is it's nice. Yeah.
It's super comfy too.
Aren't you a fashion minor, or don't you have some sort of fashion background?
No, I've taken a couple of fashion classes just because I'm interested, though. I'm nowhere near being a minor for it at all.
Okay. All right. Well, interesting. Well, you look nice, and I didn't match your maybe style today, but I don't know. All right. Well, first topic today. So how this is going to work is we got 3 topics. Take 3. Today we'll be talking about some NFL football. We'll be talking a little bit about MLB postseason, Dodgers Padres, and then we'll wrap it up previewing Game 5 and kind of showing some Game 4 highlights. So first up, I figured we go based on maybe recency. Last night, Tom Brady faced off against Nick Foles. No Mitch Trubisky. Sorry, Bears fans. I don't know. They have a mixed relationship with Mitch Trubisky thus far. But Nick Foles seems to have Tom Brady's number. And we're going to show a little bit of the highlights real quick. We'll talk about it, and we'll maybe reflect on the game a little bit after. Brady and the Buccaneers. Buccaneers up 3-0, and Nick Foles trying to make something happen here. And really, Allen Robinson was on the wide receiver here. An interception. Big turning point in this game.
Yeah, I remember watching this game live last night, and that interception was really incredible to see. And then Mike Evans going into the end zone there for really his bread and butter. That's his 6th touchdown of the year. He leads the league in touchdowns just because you get inside 5 yards, Brady's going to Evans.
Yeah, then the Bears get their first rushing touchdown of the season. Can you believe that? David Montgomery there punches it in for 6. And then just a little bit later, still under 2 minutes, this has all happened really fast. A hit stick there, if you play Madden. I mean, absolute little shot. I think it was Kyle Fuller there, and he just rocked this guy. I mean, man.
Oh yeah, that's textbook. Lower the shoulder, line them up, no helmet to helmet. I mean, you can't get a cleaner hit in today's game that's that big.
Yeah, and you know what? As many flags as they called last night, I'm surprised they didn't throw a flag there. So anyways, Bears get the ball back, and this one is just a box out by Jimmy Graham. I mean, you're going to see the replay here more than likely, but I mean, what a catch. I mean, this is like the Jimmy Graham of old. I was
about to say, that reminds me of Jimmy Graham from when I was in high school, and he would just rack up touchdowns like nothing else.
So then the Buccaneers get a field goal. I mean, this game, low scoring, defense, 19-17 lead, but then Foles getting another shot here, and this was a clutch play, probably the biggest pass of the day by Nick Foles there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how David Montgomery got so much room with 3 guys around him, but he was able to get that separation and make the catch.
So there you go. The kicking troubles for the Bears, not right there. No Cody Parkey there to double doink it. Cairo Santos there, giving the Bears a lead. And then Brady here on 4th down. Keep in mind, pay attention to the down here. All right. So this play, not really sure what he's trying to make happen there. I mean, he got rid of the ball fast. And here's the 4. Hey, he's holding up. He's not signaling 4th quarter. That's 4th down. He's like, I had a J.R. Smith moment here. I don't know what happened, but whatever. I mean, the Bears get the win here. Eddie Jackson there celebrating. And yeah, the Buccaneers seems like it just blunder, kind of a mistake by Tom Brady. And the Bears take the lead here. And I don't know, something interesting I saw after this game. See Brady walking off as the clock's going off. You know, people gave LeBron a big deal in Game 3 when he walked off as time was still remaining. And I was like, there's so much hypocrisy there as Brady was walking out before the clock was out. I kind of saw the trolls on Twitter after the game last night when he was walking off. But yeah, kind of a wild maybe surprise. So I guess, Jackson, do you believe in the Bears after last night's matchup versus the Buccaneers?
See, both of those teams, the Bucs and the Bears going into that game, I saw them as incredibly even, both 3-1, both questionable strengths of schedules and both questionable teams themselves. Matt Nagy in that offense has been under scrutiny since week 1, since last season. And then Tom Brady and the Bucs, it's the question for the first 5 weeks so far has been, can Tom Brady keep his success in Tampa Bay? And mixed results for each team, but the Bears coming out on top last night showed that they're probably actually kind of for real with Nick Foles under center at quarterback instead of Mitch Trubisky. And just, I don't know. I have a lot of Bears fans, and they still don't believe in this team, and I don't blame them because they've been hurt so many times by the Bears.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to come around on them. I'm starting to think, who knows, maybe they're actually pretty decent. I mean, they're 4-1. You can't deny it, that they're good at least.
I don't know. I mean, I was watching the game with, big Bears fan Will Trubshaw yesterday, and one of the great sports media members here at IU, and I turned to him after that game. I'm like, man, this Bears team. I mean, they're like the worst 4-1 team I've ever seen. I mean, or one of the worst. I mean, it seems like a challenge of how they're going to score each week. I mean, you look back at their game against Atlanta, down 26-10, and there was a late surge there. And same thing with the Lions. I mean, a couple late game comebacks there to get wins against not so great teams that have been accustomed to blowing leads. But I don't know. The Buccaneers might be a legitimate win. I'm not sure how high I am on Tampa Bay just yet, but they've had kind of a tough stretch early on. They played at New Orleans. You get the Bears on a Thursday night in a short turnaround. Yeah. But the Bears at 4-1, very interesting. And I don't. I mean, they might make the postseason, but I just feel like the Packers in that NFC North are just like leaps and bounds better than the Bears. Do you see that as well?
I would say for sure the Packers are so much better. And I mean, it's a team led by Aaron Rodgers compared to backup Nick Foles getting slotted into the starting spot because Trubisky couldn't get it done. I mean, there's such different teams that I would 100% say the Packers are by far and away better. But again, they might be the worst 4-1 team you've ever seen, but they're still 4-1, so there's something to be said about that. You said every week it's a question of how they're going to score, and is it going to be passing? Are they finally going to get the rushing game going? I mean, they found ways, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know we were talking to Mike Moskalek yesterday, and he was like, we were talking at Franklin Hall, and I was like, I don't know if the Bears are going to get to 14 points here. Well, they did. They hit that 20 mark. But I mean, you take out that 1 minute, 12-second stretch in the second quarter where they scored 14 points. You take that out, and they just have 6 points. So I mean, aside from that little spurt, there really was a lack of offense all night long. But that Bears defense is what's able to keep them in the games. I mean, you saw some of the plays they made. I mean, how many hits did Tom Brady take last night? I mean, I almost think that's why that blunder came about. We'll get to that in a bit. But I mean, that Bears defense has to be the reason that maybe Chicago will have any chance to, if not make the playoffs, but maybe make some noise in the playoffs should they get there, right?
Yeah, I kind of had the game on, not so much in the background, but I was watching it while we were editing shows and such at Franklin Hall last night. But I remember they showed a shot of Tom Brady on the sideline, and I noticed that his jersey was really dirty. There were tons of grass stains on it. I was like, man, that defense really hasn't been getting to him. And when you've got a defense led by the likes of Khalil Mack, that's just going to happen. You're going to get to the quarterback. And I think you're completely right that Chicago defense is what keeps the Bears in games so far.
I mean, how many times, did Brady, it just seemed like I don't really see him, at least in New England during his long stint there, that he really seemed pretty animated at his offensive line, but he seemed pretty upset with his O-line yesterday with the amount of hits he was taking. I mean, the guy is he 40 years old, 41? I mean, he's up there taking all these hits that he is. I mean, the reason he's been able to sustain a career this long in the league is because he's been able to avoid those hits, and yesterday with the amount of hits he was taking, I mean, you remember they took Tristan Wirfs, I believe, out of Iowa with their first round pick in the draft this year. I mean, that was a way to try to help him, get him some protection, but last night it did not seem apparent at all.
Yeah, especially for Wirfs because he tried to go up against Khalil Mack, and then they got up after their first, during the live play, they were getting up and they were tangled in each other, and Khalil Mack just said, no, I'm done with you, and karate flipped him over his leg basically onto the ground. And Wirfs, that's an impressive feat because he's taller and bigger than Mac.
Right. So, Bears getting a big win, moving to 4-1. I think I saw the last time they started this good, they finished 10-6. So they kind of faltered down the stretch, went 6-2, is that right? If my math is correct? Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think this team, I could see them going 10-6. I think, they had a great first quarter of the season, now over a quarter through 5 games, but who knows what'll happen. They'll get Sunday off. They'll be in action and now a week from Sunday, I believe. But, looking at the Buccaneers now, kind of a weird play we saw in those highlights, 4th and 5. Brady, I don't know if it seemed like he was maybe more in a hurry to get rid of the ball last night with the amount of hits he was taking.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell that, he had a running clock in his head, like I got to release the ball. But, on a 4th and 5, I remember, I think Bruce Arians, the head coach of the Buccaneers, got a question yesterday. Did Tom Brady know how many, what down it was? He said, he knew what down it was. He just had a mistake. I mean, how hard should Brady be criticized for that mistake last night? I mean, people call him the GOAT of quarterbacks. I mean, can this mistake, can he really, should he take the heat for last night, how that ended?
I think he should take the heat, but it was just one mistake in how long of a career that he's had. I mean, Peyton Manning made similar mistakes, I'm sure, in his however long career from the early 2000s. Eli Manning has done the same thing. I'm just going through his contemporaries from earlier in his career. But, I think a quarterback, when you play that long, you're going to make a stupid mistake. And that's just in life. That's in everything. When you do something for so long, you're not going to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. But in this sense, in this sense of the season, he 100% should be criticized. Because if he had known the down, he wouldn't have made that weird pass that he did that ultimately didn't end up working when he thought it was 3rd down. And then maybe they could have gone into field goal range and taken it. I mean, when he got the ball with 1:10 left in that game, everybody on the timeline on Twitter said, oh, it's Tom Brady. He's going to get them into field goal position and the Bucs are going to win. It was almost a given. And then that happens, and I was shocked. He got up and looked lost on the field holding up the 4. I was like, wow, he legitimately looks confused. What is happening right now?
Yeah, you know what? I thought the Bears were almost – I mean, they gave him a shot to drive down the field and get 3 points. There's, I think, 1:14, 1:17, something like that, time remaining, no timeouts. Matt Nagy decides to call a passing play when the Buccaneers have 1 timeout remaining. I think it was on 2nd down. It was an incomplete pass, and I'm thinking – I turned to Will. I'm like, what are the Bears doing here? Like, they just run the ball. You force the Buccaneers to use their last timeout. Then maybe you run it up their throat again, still get the field goal. I mean, they were in field goal range at that point. And really, the Buccaneers have half the time on the clock, if not less. And maybe that's what we're talking about today. Instead, it's Brady's error. And I don't know. Do you think that Bruce Arians or maybe that coaching staff, Byron Leftwich, the offensive coordinator, I mean, should they take any heat for this? I mean,
no.
Okay.
I
you think it's Brady?
So. I think it's just Brady made a mistake. And, as crucial as it was, it happens. And I think you just look at it, you say, okay, this happened, and you move on if you're the Buccaneers and Tom Brady. And I think if anybody can do it, it is Tom Brady. So I'm not that worried about it in the long run.
I think something that's worth noting, I mean, you saw how many times the Buccaneers were penalized yesterday. I mean, I think there was at one point, it was like 2nd and 34 or something like that. They just kept backing up and backing up. And I'm thinking to myself, man, how many times in New England, I mean, I'm sure it happened at some point, but how many times do you see like a team like New England they're just not disciplined? I mean, it basically never happens. I mean, Belichick always seemed to have his team ready to go. I mean, even against a team like Kansas City, where Cam Newton gets tested positive for COVID last week. I mean, they hung around with I'd say a much better, at least on paper, Kansas City team. And, I got to give credit to Belichick for even being able to keep that game tight all the way up until I think the 4th quarter started. A team like the Buccaneers, I just thought there were so many mistakes last night that a Brady-led team isn't used to seeing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's still a learning process. I mean, for him, I can definitely see going to a new team where things could be confusing, but I think give him a few more weeks and it'll get worked out. And I'm the farthest thing from a Tom Brady apologist in my life as a sports fan, but I think legitimately he gets a few more weeks in the system. they start to gel for sure. I mean, it's only been 5 games after how many years in New England in a new city. So, like, I think just give them a few more weeks and we won't see as mistakes like this, at least to this extent.
Yeah, I mean, you saw just last week, I think Brady was the NFC Player of the Week or so. He had 5 touchdown passes, over 300 passing yards.
Yeah,
I think the Buccaneers will figure it out. However, I don't know. Part of me says I wouldn't be shocked if they somehow missed the playoffs. I mean, I think with that NFC South, I mean, the Saints haven't really shown up to maybe what people are accustomed to yet. I mean, Michael Thomas has been hurt. Drew Brees hasn't looked like, the Drew Brees of, old yet. But I think there's a scenario where the Buccaneers miss the playoffs. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But I think it's definitely not out of question that the Buccaneers miss the playoffs.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. It's their first year as a team this team itself has been put together. I mean, Mike Evans has been there, but you add Brady and Gronkowski and a few other additions, and the team, I mean, it's going to take a little bit, like I said, a few more weeks to get everything gelled completely. They've had moments like Brady's game where he was Player of the Week, but they just have to get everything gelled completely. So every week, Brady could be considered that.
I mean, you think of the expectations that it seems like every year there's like a one team that's like, oh, they have these such high expectations that maybe they necessarily haven't earned yet. And then they maybe fall short. I mean, last year, I think it was the Cleveland Browns when they go and get Odell Beckham, and they have all these pieces, Jarvis Landry, but they just fall flat. I mean, there was a new coach, kind of a similar thing to what we're seeing in Tampa Bay, but I don't know, Tampa Bay has a guy named Tom Brady, and he's been there, done that. So I think the Buccaneers are a little bit of a different situation.
Your Cleveland Browns to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady. I'm so happy you got that in.
I had to. I don't know. I'm surprised you haven't brought up Joe Burrow in a sentence or try to make some comparison.
Listen, the other day I had to argue that he was the NFL MVP on camera, so I'm all in on Joe Burrow right now.
Well, I will say, quick aside, I think right now he could. I think he's very well. I'd say it's either him or James Robinson up for Rookie of the Year. Now, I think you got to give it to a quarterback because that's face of your franchise. But Burrow's definitely looked. I mean, his team said he doesn't look like a rookie, and this is his he's had four starts, I think, to this point. So yeah, pretty impressive stuff from him. But we'll look forward to more NFL action on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, which is weird to say, Tuesday football.
Yeah, that's weird to say due to COVID complications.
Yeah, but hey, who knows? So I think moving on now from the gridiron to the baseball diamond, the MLB postseason. We have some highlights to look at here, so maybe let's go over those. We're going to talk some Dodgers Padres, and then we'll talk about it a little more afterwards. All right, Game 3 was last night of the NLDS, a NL West rivalry and some defense. How about that gem? And then just a bad throw, Yeah,
I mean, the gem where they threw the ball away. It looked great until the throw.
Yeah, but anyways, the Padres actually were up 2-1 early, and then it was basically all Dodgers from here on out. I mean, Will Smith with a big night of his own, 5 hits. I mean, pretty impressive stuff right there. You see Justin Turner knocking one in, but yeah, this is Will Smith's game. I mean, the Dodgers just show any given night they have a player that can go off. I mean, you think of Bellinger, you think of Turner, who really never heated up yet, in my opinion, this year. And a guy like Will Smith, I mean, Mookie Betts, I mean, I haven't mentioned yet. I mean, they're just so deep. I mean, yeah,
when the Padres are up 2-1, it was like, okay, the Padres might not get swept here. But then after that, like you said, the Dodgers just ran away with that. Will Smith, I believe, was 5 for 6 on the night. Like you said, 5 hits. I mean, that's incredible production from maybe not a player that a casual fan will look at the Dodgers and go, okay, yeah, no, Will Smith could definitely do that. No, you look at guys like Cody Bellinger or Justin Turner, and you say those are the guys who are going to do it. But like you said, the Dodgers are so deep that Will Smith could be the guy with a 5 for 6 night, and they just ran away with it from there, 12-3 at the top of the 9th. It's just incredible how the Dodgers closed this out with really no doubt.
Yeah, I remember we were talking yesterday, and before Game 3 of this particular series, and I turned to you and Drew Fry of the Los Angeles Dodgers super fan in the sports media department here at IU, and I'm like, the Padres got to get a game here. They're too good, right? But no, I mean, the Dodgers just closed the door in 3 games. I mean, you go ahead and Dustin May came out, and he was kind of the opener, pitched an inning. but it was really the Julio Urias show. I mean, he threw 5, I believe, scoreless innings. I mean, really impressive stuff from the youngster. So, Jackson, does the Dodgers sweep of the Padres prove that, they're for real and arguably the best team remaining in the postseason?
I think even if they hadn't swept the Padres, they would still be considered the top threat remaining of the teams. I mean, they go on to play Atlanta, who has faced the Cincinnati Reds and the Miami Marlins, who aren't really the competition that you'd think from a top playoff team. You look at the Dodgers, who they played the Brewers, and that was pretty easy for them. But the Padres, nobody expected it to be a sweep. Fernando Tatis is one of the hottest hitters on the planet right now, and the rest of that team has shown that they can be really good, and they were second to the Dodgers in the division all year. I think people may have expected it to go 4 or 5 games, but I don't think anybody had it down as a sweep. But last night, going into that game, when you and our friend Drew was talking about, the Padres have to get a game, and just makes sense. At that point, I was convinced that the Dodgers were going to sweep, because what I had seen from the first 2 games from San Diego was they're not going to get a game in. Are you kidding me? And I think they used 9 different pitchers last night. Some crazy number like that. I mean, I don't know. This San Diego team, I don't want to say it's a disappointment, because you run into a Dodgers team that are just a lineup of world beaters. But I don't know. It's weird seeing San Diego get swept like this, even though by the time Game 3 had rolled around, I had accepted it was going to happen.
Yeah, and you look at Game 2, which, looking back at the series now that it's over, was just so pivotal, particularly for the Padres. I mean, that was a 6-5 game. I mean, they had a chance to capitalize in the 9th. I mean, they were down 6-3 entering the 9th inning, and that Dodgers bullpen had been so sharp to that point. And then Kenley Jansen, they get to him, and now it's a 6-5 game all of a sudden. And then Joe Kelly comes in, and arguably Manny Machado or Fernando Tatis and then Manny Machado put together arguably the best walks back-to-back that I've ever seen in a postseason. I mean, just the pitches that they took on ball 4, the at-bats they took, I mean, against a really disciplined, pitcher, and Joe Kelly, like he's going to make you earn it. Aside from that off-speed pitch that he was throwing 2 or 3 feet in front of home plate.
Yeah, that was weird, because I was watching Joe Kelly pitch to those guys, and you could tell he was trying to pick his spots super carefully, more so than other situations. Those breaking balls in front of the plate were so weird to see, but you could tell he just wanted to slow him down and then try to blow by him with a 97 or 96 mile an hour fastball. And it happened a few times. I think he got away with one that Machado fouled off. Yeah, that was barely. Pretty much right over the middle of the plate. Got lucky there, but that's when I knew that if the Padres couldn't counter against a bullpen, or the Dodgers bullpen there, where they had walked 2 guys and the bases were loaded and the Dodgers still got out of it in the end with the win, that's where I figured if they can't counter that, then I think this series is over tomorrow. I didn't expect a blowout like the Dodgers did last night, but I expected them to win after seeing that, because you just have to find ways to win, and they couldn't.
Yeah, no, Dodgers are for real. I mean, I think they're complete. To me, this series against the Padres gave me no reason to believe that they aren't the best team remaining.
Yeah.
And they play an Atlanta team, but I think that San Diego, if any team in the Dodgers' path, I mean, if anything, it was starting pitching that was their problem, because you see a guy like a Mike Clevenger that kind of struggled with an injury, a guy they traded for from Cleveland, a guy like, I believe it's pronounced Dinelson Lamet. I know he was.
I know it's Lamet.
Lamet.
I'm not super familiar.
Let's call him Lamet. He was just nasty with the amount of strikeouts that he had for them. He didn't play, so all of a sudden you have 2 of the top starters for San Diego out, and I mean, Mike Clevenger pitched, but I mean, you saw he got injured. I mean, just not performing well. It was really what I'm saying.
It wasn't the Clevenger performance you'd expect from Mike Clevenger.
Right. And all of a sudden, to me, it's just all Dodgers at that point. I mean, that offense for San Diego, I thought, could match what the Dodgers were bringing to a level. But, in a 5-game series, I don't think they had a shot. And it turned out, it only went 3. So I think it's impressive that the Dodgers were able to get the door done in the, 3 games that the series lasted. I think was very impressive. And, looking forward and now ahead to the Braves and the NLCS, I think that the Braves maybe owe an advantage. This will be an interesting matchup. I mean, because the Braves have a guy like a Max Fried, a guy like Ian Anderson, who's looked really, really great for the Braves thus far. I think those will be potentially interesting series. But to me, the Dodgers, I would not bet against the Dodgers right now, the way they're playing.
No,
really impressive stuff.
The Braves are a challenge to them in the sense that you mentioned Max Fried and Ian Anderson. Those are going to be the best two pitchers they've faced this offseason, I would say. And we saw Max Fried and Ian Anderson go toe for toe with the Reds in the wild card round, where they went scoreless through 13 innings almost before the Braves walked that one off in the 13th. And then the next day, Ian Anderson went toe to toe again with Sonny Gray, or Luis Castillo, where it was scoreless until the 7th or 8th inning. So I think those two guys, they're going to be the biggest challenge this lineup has seen so far by far. And if LA can handle them, I don't see why anybody would pick against them to win the World Series at that point.
Yeah. 3 out of the 4 teams in the championship series, both, the Braves and the Dodgers is set, and the Houston Astros have already advanced to the ALCS. So all that's left is Game 5 of Yankees and Rays. So, that'll be an interesting series. I believe Garrett Cole pitches tonight.
It's Garrett Cole versus Tyler Glasnow in a matchup of former Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. How about that? Pirates fans are probably sighing or, super depressed.
They saw the announcement of Glasnow for the Rays and they just started slamming their table.
Hey, at least the Pirates have a guy, Chris Archer, who.
Oof. I don't know if Chris Archer's the kind of guy you want to lean on right now. But yeah, no, I think that
we'll see who advances in that one.
Yeah, just a quick aside on the Rays Yankees. That's going to be a huge pitch matchup, and I really don't know who's going to win.
I wouldn't bet against Garrett Cole in a Game 5 and a winner take all. I mean, he's the top, but who knows? I guess the only thing is short rest. Maybe he didn't get the full 5 days like he's accustomed to, and I think it was 4 days, I believe, since the last time he pitched. So that'll definitely be interesting to see who takes that one. But yeah, so Dodgers, we like them, and I think we'll also look at the next topic, another team that could close out a series tonight, as well as the Yankees. How about the Los Angeles Lakers against the Miami Heat in Game 5, which tips off tonight, I think 9 p.m., I believe.
I believe so.
Yeah, but first we'll look at some highlights from Game 4, and then we'll maybe talk about what we've seen out of both teams and go from there. So we'll pull them up now. Game 4 from earlier this week. This one was a 2-1 Lakers lead, and I think LeBron knew. I mean, did anyone really doubt that LeBron wouldn't come out ready to play?
I mean, yeah, you could tell in his demeanor on the court. When LeBron had the ball, he was passing it with conviction. He was shooting it with conviction. Whatever he did, it was almost certain to be successful.
There you go, screaming right there. He loved what he saw right there. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty crazy stuff. I mean, this one was a close game. I think Miami had a chance to take the lead on a Jimmy Butler corner 3. I think he missed it. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who had probably his best postseason game as far as a Laker. I mean, or at least came in the most clutch. They really needed him in Game 4 to really have a shot. I mean, the Lakers have just been needing shooting. I mean, you see guys like Alex Caruso, KCP stepping up. I mean, it can't always be Anthony Davis and LeBron, even though a lot of the times, I mean, it is. That's what they're getting. But at some point, you got to have production from somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think seeing the Lakers, what they're doing right now, every game except for Game 1 has been pretty close in my mind. And then the Heat go out and win one on their own. But I think the series has been further apart than it actually has seemed. Because other than that one game the Heat were able to steal, I think it's been pretty much all Lakers. And the Heat have had their moments. Bam Adebayo playing through injury. Tyler Hero is making a huge name for himself. He's been one of the best rookies in playoff history in the NBA. And you can't say enough about him. But, man, what are you going to do against a team of LeBron and Anthony Davis when they're both locked in? And then all of their supporting cast, Rondo, KCP, Kuzma, Caruso. I mean, those guys are locked in, too. I don't know what you can do.
Right. And, with the 3-1 lead the Lakers have, I think I saw a stat on Twitter rolling around yesterday. I think teams in the NBA Finals that have a 3-1 lead, I think, are 34-1. Went up under that, of course. Everyone remembers 2016. I certainly do.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Warriors.
That one is all you, buddy, Mr. Cavaliers fan.
That was LeBron. It forced Kevin Durant to team up because Draymond Green cried and made a phone call after that game 7. But anyways, yeah, this Lakers team dominant. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I think we started to adjust at least once the big 3 in Miami formed. Was that in the summer of 2010? I think that was the new era of like the big 3 basketball we've seen, like the 3, maybe the trio of stars, the superstars on each team. We saw with the Heat, the Spurs, maybe a unique kind of case.
The Spurs are different to me because those are guys that they had. And then like Kawhi came up through their own system. They drafted him. It's not like they went out and signed like Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili and all of those guys with the intent of forming a big 3. They were just there. They were part of the Spurs organization. Right. When LeBron, like you said, when he went to Miami, that started the new era of it's acceptable for stars to go out and basically ring hunt. Yeah. Sure. When KD went to the Warriors, now KD and Kyrie on the Nets, LeBron going to the Lakers with Anthony Davis. I mean, him going to the Heat to team up with Bosh and Wade has changed basketball. And I think 10 years later or so, a decade later, I think it's paid off. And I think it's really entertaining to see.
I think right now, though, we're actually entering a new era of like, you don't need a big 3. It's more of like a superstar kind of 2 guys, system. You think I wouldn't call Kyle Lowry a superstar by any means, but I'd call him he was an all-star by his standards. He's a solid player along with a superstar. Yeah, say Kawhi Leonard last year teaming up. And this year Anthony Davis and LeBron, same story.
Yeah, Lowry a top 20 player. You get him with Kawhi, yeah, that's money right there. And then Davis, probably the best big man in the league. You put him with one of the best players in the league, and LeBron, top 2 player. And I don't know if he's 2 right now. I'd say he's number 1 right now. And then next year we'll see kind of a similar team organization when Clay and Steph are healthy on the Warriors. And I feel like that'll be your kind of like terrible twosome there. I don't know. I think you're right in that assumption because, I mean, even the Indiana Pacers try to do something similar with Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis.
Right. Wow. Yeah. We'll see if Oladipo will stay in Indy.
I don't think he's sticking around in Indy for that much longer. I think he'll end up somewhere, probably LA. Imagine Oladipo, Davis, and LeBron.
That would be interesting. But, looking at the other team in this finals, the Miami Heat, down 3-1. I mean, you have a guy, I don't think anyone picked him to be here. Obviously, I mean, 75-1 odds they had to make the NBA finals in the East. But to me, I don't know. I personally was never a believer in the Milwaukee Bucks. I didn't think they had it. I kind of like the Toronto Raptors advancing to the finals, although, they played tough against the Celtics. The Celtics were just the better team.
Yeah.
But I think the Miami Heat could be an attractive destination of free agents moving into this season. I mean, he looked like a guy like a Giannis Antetokounmpo who might be on the move. We'll see. I mean, he's got 1 year remaining on his deal. So Milwaukee, will they trade him? Will, they just ride it out and hope to sign Giannis in free agency? That's yet to be seen. But I don't know. I think Miami I could see maybe a Jimmy Butler, Giannis team up there. I mean, the East, you think about what they have going on next year, right? I mean, the Nets will be at full force. They'll have a healthy KD and a healthy Kyrie, who both didn't play this year. Or Kyrie might have played, but like very minimal. It's just been like forever ago. I think he did play. And then you have, the Toronto Raptors, who I think are extremely well coached. I think they'll be around again. The Celtics, I think, will only get better. I think this was a good maybe loss for them. Maybe that'll give them a little more motivation experience from Jason Tatum, guys like Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker. So I think the Celtics are for real, potentially moving forward. And then maybe the Miami Heat. I mean, they're going to be the defending Eastern Conference champions next year. Now, granted, this is all played in a bubble, so we don't know how much a home court and, playing a road game really would have made much of a difference this year. We'll never know, but it surely might have. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, every game was a home game for every team, it felt like.
Yeah.
There's no
I
advantage.
think you could tell over the regular season that this Heat team was still trying to gel a little bit, even though they had good chemistry between kind of their main 3 and Butler, Adebayo, and Harrow. And that's how it's turned out this season. But coming to the bubble, it just seemed like that team has come together around one another, and they have been playing the best basketball in the East. I mean, obviously they won the East, but I think that chemistry will carry over into next season with Harrow only getting better, Adebayo only getting better in his young career, and then Jimmy Butler is Jimmy Butler. And like you said, if they can pull one big free agent or two good free agents and maybe even a big trade-off, who knows? Who knows how high that ceiling is for the Heat right now. And I think that's just what you have to come to expect from a Pat Riley organization.
Right. I think something about the Heat, this finals in particular, has made me realize two things. One, Jimmy Butler is a gamer. Philly was just a wrong scenario for him. I mean, something I think back to when Philly had the option to really, they had a max contract slot. They had Tobias Harris and they had Jimmy Butler, and they decided to give the money to Tobias Harris. I think like the $175 million deal. We all know how that's kind of at least gone so far. They got a guy like an Al Horford to pair with the Joel Embiid, two big guys in a league that's moving away, to the perimeter. Just we're seeing what the Houston Rockets have done, just playing more small ball. I think that's the way the NBA is moving.
But at the same time, the big guys have started to shoot threes now. I mean, Miles Turner in Indianapolis is a great example.
It's true.
And then even the Heat, they've got Jay Crowder taking threes. I can't remember who is it. It's Morris for the Lakers. He's starting to take
Markieff
threes
Morris
too, that I've noticed in this series. He shoots a lot of threes.
Sure,
and I haven't watched a lot of Lakers basketball, to be fair, before this, so maybe that's been his MO all season. But seeing him take threes and being decent at them, like, it's a cool sight.
Yeah, but I mean, a guy like Joel Embiid and Al Horford, I mean, those aren't guys. I mean, those are more like, I'm talking more like stretch four guys. Like Markieff Morris is a stretch four guy. Miles Turner is like, he plays the five, but like he could play the four. He's quick enough.
Yeah.
Al Horford's too big. Joel Embiid's too quick, and all those injuries to his legs. I mean, those guys are the kind of guys who play inside, and they're not used to running up and down, playing on the perimeter all the time. Yeah. And that's the way the NBA is moving.
Those two guys are more of old-fashioned big men.
Yeah, but anyways, Jimmy Butler. You look now. I mean, it even seems more like it just didn't work in Philly. Like he just wants to win. He takes a team like Miami and signs with them in free agency. I think a lot of people, maybe it was a surprise because going into the season, we were like, okay, what's in Miami? Like this is. But I guess people starting to quickly realize, okay, this is Jimmy Butler's team, and he's got a bunch of winners surrounding him, guys who want to win, like in their ballers, like a Tyler Herro, who was drafted. This past season, Bam Adebayo, another guy homegrown by the Miami Heat. And the other point I want to make, other than the Jimmy Butler thing, which I have just gained so much respect for, is Eric Spoelstra as a head coach. I know he had the big three and everything, and they won all those titles, which is great. But to me, any team, and it's not necessarily Spoelstra's fault, but like when you have a team that has a guy named LeBron James on it, people think that LeBron is the coach of the team. It's just it's
and we've seen that where it's true. I mean, and
those
teams in Cleveland after he left Miami, I would say that was true.
Right. And it's, it's unfortunate. Maybe it's not fair to that coaching staff, but it is. People think LeBron's the player coach. People also think he's the GM of teams. Well, he's not there anymore. This is Jimmy Butler. And for Spoelstra to be able to coach his way all the way, led by, the president of the organization, Pat Riley, to the NBA Finals, I think that's more impressive than any of the titles that Spoelstra won, during the Big Threes run in Miami. I gained so much more respect for Spoelstra this postseason than I did at any time during that Big Three era.
Spoelstra's a great coach, and Pat Riley's a great executive. And just to go back to your Jimmy Butler point, Miami is the perfect place for him. They have what they call Heat culture, where it's all about being gritty, grinding hard. They might be in the city of Miami, but they're an extremely down and dirty and rough team.
Right.
And it's literally the perfect place for Jimmy Butler in the league. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him play the rest of his career there.
So I said at the beginning of this segment, Lakers game 5 tonight. Did the Lakers finish off the gentleman's sweep and win against the Miami Heat tonight? Or do you think the Heat are going to stretch the series out a little longer?
Now, for all the nice things we've said about Jimmy Butler and Spoelstra and Riley and the Heat, I do think the Lakers close it out because LeBron's one game away from a title. And we've seen when LeBron wants to turn it on, he turns it on and gets it done. I 100% think the Lakers close it out. 4-1 series, LeBron gets another title, one step closer to MJ's titles. And I think he's going to come out with killer instinct. I think AD's going to come out with that killer instinct. And then the rest of the Lakers are just going to follow suit because they see their two generals. They're going to follow them into battle and just, copy their example.
I don't want to say that any NBA title is necessarily like an easy title for any superstar, but for some reason, I think LeBron deserves kind of like I don't want to call it a free win because obviously they had to get to this point. But like I don't know, he's not playing a Golden State. Like I mean, you've seen the tear that he's had to go through over the last decade. You know, all those Warriors teams. You know, the Spurs played him tough at some point. At one point, you know, Dallas Mavericks kind of a outlier where maybe the Heat probably should have won that series, but it was their first year together.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The Heat are a very tough team, but when you look at, you know, do they have that maybe X factor? I mean, Jimmy Butler's great and they have a lot of great complementary pieces, but they don't have like the superstar stack that can match the Lakers. And
here's my thing with LeBron and his finals opponents. He's playing the Heat this year because there is no team in the East with LeBron on it, basically. LeBron spent his entire career in the East, and all of his final trips have been to with teams in the East, facing Steph Curry and the Spurs, as you mentioned, and the Mavericks with like Dirk, who is still coming in the back half of his prime, basically. When you've got to face those loaded teams, of course you're going to have a weird finals record. But when you win the West, which is clearly the better conference, who in the East is going to challenge you once Giannis is out? And that team was missing Brogdon so badly, they were never going to make it this far. So really, there is no competition for a LeBron-led team coming out of the West.
Right.
LeBron was always the bearer of the East's pride. And now that he's not there, nobody can compete with him.
Right. And you think about, you know, how many times he's been in the finals, and, you know, you could look at that. I mean, everyone likes to compare him to Michael Jordan, which I personally am on the side where, you know, I think it's hard to compare players generation or by different when they play in different generations. I just think it's just two different eras of basketball. It's hard to do that.
And if we want to have a quick aside on the MJ LeBron debate, I think it's just aside, it's so different, and you can't really compare him just because MJ took like a year or two off in the middle of his prime to play baseball. Right. And LeBron has been here the entire time. So I think their careers are so different. Their legacies are so different. You can argue and argue and argue. And I've always been an MJ guy, but LeBron has his merits. And I think LeBron, at least of our generation, Jordan, growing up and watching basketball, he is the greatest player.
Right. So I think LeBron, I don't call this a pass, you know, just kind of easy finals, but I think he's certainly deserving of one just because it's, you know, it's been so tough. And, you know, with so many times you go to the finals, I mean, you're not going to win every time. I mean, yeah, this will make him 4-6 in the finals if he wins. So he's still not 500, but, you know, getting to 4 NBA titles,
getting to 11 finals appearances is kind of insane.
Right. And what did he have? 8 straight finals appearances before last season with that streak ended. I mean, it's just amazing. The longevity, I think, is so impressive with LeBron. I personally think for some reason, you know, I know the Lakers are wearing the Black Mamba jerseys tonight. I think they're going to win, but boy, oh boy, my heart kind of wants to tell me the Heat are going to get another win here. I
wouldn't be shocked if the Heat do pull out an upset just solely because they've been keeping the games close. That they have lost except for game 1. In my heart of hearts, I think the Lakers are going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Heat pulled out maybe like a 5-10 point win.
Yeah, but no, I got the Lakers tonight wearing the jerseys to honor Kobe. They haven't lost in those jerseys this year, and I don't see them. I think there's just too much emotion and will to win. LeBron he's been doing that. I saw he was playing Madden yesterday with Jared Dudley, just chilling. I saw before like how they're prepping for game 5 here. They're just chilling. They're just having a good time. But I think they're ready to get out of that bubble. But the Heat are going to make it difficult. I don't think they're going to just go down and you know, turn over and you know and die. It's going to be tough.
That was the one thing I wanted to add on to your point real quick. You said that the Heat maybe not kind of like a pass. They're the easiest team he's had to face in the finals, or maybe the least talented.
Maybe the Thunder. I mean, maybe the Thunder. Maybe the Thunder. Who knows?
It's not fair to say least talented because that's unfair to the Heat, but you get my point. I think this might be one of his hardest championships just for the sole fact that they had to endure the bubble for this entire time and be away from their families and just deal with everything that's so weird this year. And I think this title is going to mean something to the team that wins it more than a normal one.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously I'm sure the debate will go for maybe, I don't want to say necessarily LeBron haters, but maybe just basketball fans in general. If like will there be an asterisk for this title? There's the whole debate there, but I think all the teams were under the same circumstances. I don't have an issue with it counting,
they were
just
all
like
under
the rest.
same circumstances, and they finished out the regular season. They played 82 games, and then they played a full playoffs. There should be no asterisk on this.
No, every team played under the same rules, the same format.
Yeah.
So I don't have an issue with it personally, but I know there will be the people that will, put an asterisk next to this title forever. But, to think of this kind of as a lockout year. It was weird. Things had to adjust on the fly. The Spurs in '99 when they won. But hey, things happen and adjustments were made. So, but I think the Lakers close it out tonight. We'll look forward to that one. But yeah, this has been Take 3. Jackson, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate you coming on the first episode.
Literally any time, dude. This was a blast.
Good deal. Yeah. Well, I'll be seeing you tomorrow on the golf course. Looking forward to that. Playing a little bit. And yeah, thanks for coming on. And that'll do it for Take 3 today. And we'll be back next week. Special thanks to Mr. And Jackson as well coming on the show this week. But we'll see you later. Take care.